Hello, welcome to my demonstration and quick tutorial on my new loop plugin. And I wanted to just go over some things real quick. I do have documentation, but if you prefer just to see the video demonstration, well, here it is. Okay, first things first. Make sure it's installed and make sure it's active. That's step one. Once it is installed and active, if you pull up any animation sequence, you should see this loop button right here. So this loop tool affects all of the float curves that is in an animation sequence. Now, the most common use right now for these are, especially from Metahuman users, is Metahuman Animator animations, or basically any kind of facial animations. It's completely curve based. You cannot edit these unless there's something I do not know. You cannot edit these like in a DCC. These are not like the bone transform curves. Like this is Unreal's own data set type of curves, if that makes sense. So that unfortunately leaves us with the issue of trying to blend animations. Take, for instance, an idle animation. When you've done an idle animation, and then at the end of that idle animation, you're going to have the kind of this nasty cut. And unless you manually go through all, about 100 curves in a Metahuman animation, you're going to get that nasty cut. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through 100 curves and clean up manually. There's other things that need to be developed. So I created a tool even to help myself called Loop. And what this will do is blend the last 30, 60, however many frames you have specified into the first frame position. So Loop gathers snapshots from all of the different curves here and essentially pastes them in the end here, and then does a nice little blend into that first frame position. So let's go right out the gate. Now this animation is the Metahuman creator animation. And I brought in this animation and I cut off the last about dozen frames just so we can get a nasty cut. Now most of you know, if you've played this animation, it does seamlessly loop. But now that I've cut off the end, you should see a pretty nasty cut. Yeah, it's pretty gross. It's very noticeable. So let's fix it. Now, these are the default settings. You can leave them like this if you prefer. Just go ahead and hit loop curves. You see it only takes about a second. And I got a little toast notification over on the side. There was looked like about 100 curves. So if we go in here, you can see what it's done. This curve originally ended here. I'll undo just to show you. This is also Control Z undoable. This was the end of the original curve. And now this is the first frame position. So you can tell it's quite a bit of a difference that I cut off there. So if I play this, now you have a seamless loop. But with that being said, sometimes I've had the default settings work really well, but sometimes the transition is just too extreme. And when it's too extreme, you're going to get kind of that kind of unnatural movement to get into the first frame position. It's almost robotic, and you may like that. You might have a certain set of curves that you needed to do just that, but this is motion capture, so things are a little bit more, those little things are a little bit more easier to spot. So let's fix this. I'm going to undo. Now if I wanted to do 60 frames, we can see what kind of difference that would make. Now keep in mind, this is happening globally on all of the curves. I'm just looking here at once. I could bring up this other curve and show you the same thing, that it has done its ease in, ease out cubic blend here. So I've set this to 60 frames. And that transition is a little bit more subtle, but you can still kind of see it. So let's undo. Just to go down the line here quickly, you choose your frame rate. We'll go back to 30 for now. You can swap to seconds if you want to. If you're doing something with a lot of frames, or maybe the frame rate is really, really high, and you're not doing the standard 30 frames per second animation, you can swap over to seconds. And so you can just say, I want the last 2 seconds or 3 seconds to blend. Sometimes that might be easier depending on your situation. Affect only selected curves, pretty self-explanatory. It drops down the list of the curves that you have in the animation. And let's say if I just wanted all of the eyes to curve or to loop, but I don't care about anything else, you can do this, hit loop curves, and you'll see that only the curves related to eyes have been correctly looped. Everything else will blip. Your blend type, default set to cubic in and out. Usually the easing works, but sometimes I have noticed that that easing in and out can actually enhance that unnatural blend. And I've even moved to linear and noticed improvement. So just for fun here, let's try linear. And you'll see it's definitely much more of a sharper line. But amazingly enough, it actually looks a little bit more natural. So let's keep on. Now we have add extra keys. Now this is pretty unnecessary if you are dealing with an animation that already has a key on every frame. Add extra keys is great for a curve that has very few keys and is not looping correctly. This will add well, you can set it right here. You can key every single frame, or you can move it all the way up to 8 frames. But if you really want to go extreme, well, the default is 1, so it will add a new key for every frame to help with the smoothness. If you don't like that, no worries. Just uncheck it, and it will bend your curve no matter what. Sometimes it looks better without the extra keys. Sometimes the extra keys are very much needed. But so you have that option to play with back and forth to see what works better for you. Before I get too far here, blend toward start of clip or first key value. And I do have detailed tooltips on absolutely everything. I know what it's like to have some new software and not be able to figure out what an option is when you hover over it. There's no tooltip. If the tooltips are in the way and you already know the software and you don't want to see them, no worries. Pop up here and just uncheck show tooltips. So as I was saying, start of clip, it goes to frame 0, gathers the first key information and pastes it to the end. Now, if you have, let's say, a curve that where the first key doesn't actually start until, say, frame 90, well, you want to make sure that it's gathering that instead. So you can switch that to first key value. And it will not start from frame 0. It will find the first key and will loop from there if needed. But usually start of clip, for most applications, that will work just fine. Preserve in tangents. All this makes sure is that when it's having to forcefully bend the curve, that it doesn't cause any kind of weird blip or cut. You just never know. It's just like the tiniest little pop that could happen. I've had it happen sometimes, and I've had it not happen with this off. It just depends. But usually 99% of the time, just preserve your in tangents so that they blend in together smoothly. Keep micro movement. What micro movement is going to do is when you have larger, like say motion capture, especially, this is where this is most useful. Because you're going to have these little micro natural human movements, and then you have to force blend the curve. Well, what this will do is reduce the noise of those micro movements down to zero as you get closer to that end frame. So if you have this off, then that curve really won't care about those micro movements, and it could flatten them out a little too much. Now we're talking extreme subtleties, but if for anyone working in motion capture, it does not take, you'll know that it does not take much in an animation, a modified animation, to make it look unnatural. So the micro movement is helpful, and again, you could just keep this at default and just let it do its thing, or you can mess with the strength, you can mess with how much noise it affects towards that last frame, whatever you want to do here. So let's move down to simplify. Simplify is optional. Not everybody wants to simplify their animations. But for those that do, by default, it's set to medium. And again, this is already kind of tweaked into just like Unreal's simplify that's built in. This is basically tweaked to those same settings on the medium preset. And this also includes a noise gate. So if you have an eye blinking track, and you only need it to blink when those curves spike up, but then you have all this bottom near zero noise happening, you can crank these up to something more extreme on the simplification and on the noise gate, and it will cut out any of those unwanted curves but keeps your blink spikes, just in case you're getting like jittery eyelids or anything like that. Now, if your noise is extreme, it will only be able to do so much. But if it's just a lot of subtle noise hanging around the zero value, and it just needs a little cleaning, this noise gate near zero will help with that. So let's look at how this works now. This is going to curve, blend seamlessly, and then it's going to simplify. So there we go. Now it removed a lot of unneeded keys, and a lot of times you're just going to get, it's just going to be much smoother. Now, before I get too far, I will say yes, there is a simplify option. For me, I've actually had this break. I think here I am showing this in version 5.4, where I initially designed this plugin. And this doesn't work when I hit apply, when I highlight the keys and hit apply, that it simplify for some reason does not work. I don't think it's like that for every game engine or every engine version, but either way, I liked an easy one-click button to simplify all curves at the same time, very quickly, globally. You can still go that other route if you want to, that's completely up to you, but I do just want to show how quick and easy the simplification works and how it looks on the face here. You can see it does a great job on the medium preset. It really doesn't change the animation at all. And it looks like it also helped that blending a little bit too. Now there you have it. A seamless, perfect loop. So again, lots of different options to mess around with. Also, just to toss it out there real quick so it's on here, if simplify is on, add extra keys is off. So it has to be that way because you have simplify trying to take away keys and you have add extra keys trying to add keys, and they kind of cancel each other out in the middle, and it's really unnecessary. So if simplification is off, then you can add your extra keys back and forth, depending on what you need. So again, this works on all curves. All of these float curves in an animation sequence, it can be a single curve, it can be 500 curves. It does not matter. This plugin will process them very quickly. And now you can enjoy all of your animations being smoothly and seamlessly looped. And I hope this helps you as much as it has helped me.